Hey guys, welcome back to HospitaliTV. Thank you for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Today we have a very special guest, one of the original pioneers in San Diego fine dining, one of the first, if not the first, to bring it to our beautiful city. Currently the owner of 2 locations in San Diego, one downtown in Bankers Hill, the beautiful Mr. A's restaurant, possibly one of the best dining views in the city, and 2, where we are today, nestled away in Rancho, Santa Fe, the beautiful Mille Fleurs. So, Mr. Bertrand, how are you today, sir?
How are you? I'm fine, thank you.
Awesome, great to have you in. Thanks for taking the time.
Of course.
So, I had the pleasure of meeting you a couple months back. We were doing a lunch here with Doug Schaefer, and I was really enthralled by a lot of the stories that you were telling between yourself and Doug about the old days in San Diego. And I thought, man, I have to talk to this guy. I got to get a feel for how our scene was built here, and you were definitely one of the pioneers in doing that. Can you tell us a little bit how you got into this crazy, beautiful business of restaurants and hospitality?
That is a long story, but to make it a short story, I have a degree in economics and from the University of Toulouse. And when I left college, I had no idea what to do. And concurrent of circumstances, my mom saw an ad that a big bank, the Crédit Agricole, was looking for graduates to study banking procedures in North America. So I applied, and they gave me a grant to go and study. My first stop was University of Toronto, and I had an English, high school English and a little bit of college English, which of course translated into not be able to say a word. I couldn't understand anything. So anyhow, after a while, I couldn't even go to college because I couldn't understand what the professor was saying. So I had to learn English, and therefore not going to college, I started working as a busboy in a restaurant. Then I became a waiter. Actually, I became a bartender first. So this was 1971. And 1972, I moved to Washington, D.C., for Georgetown University to further the classes. At that point, I was a bona fide waiter. I presented myself as a full-on waiter, and I was able to get a job in, at the time, the best restaurant in DC, which was called, the name of it was Rive Gauche. And then I had several good customers, including one who was an accountant who had dual offices. His name is Norman Eisenberg, and he had an office in DC and an office in La Jolla. And as we were talking, he said, Bertrand, you don't even like banking, I mean, you love what you're doing here. And I said, absolutely, I really would like to own a restaurant. He said, I'll tell you what, let's go back to La Jolla. There are no fresh restaurants in La Jolla. Bring a chef, and we'll open a restaurant. I'll get you investors, and I'll give you all the money. So I came down, and in November, again, shortening the whole thing, in 1973, November of 73, I opened a place called Le Côte d'Azur in La Jolla, which is 1250 Prospect, which was right at the time next to the Bratskeller, which is now George at the Cove, and it's now The Hague. And but anyway, so that was 1973 through 75, and so that was my first venture in the business. I had 18 investors, and I wasn't too happy with that. So in 75, we sold, and I kept 2 investors, and I opened a place called Mon Ami in Solana Beach, almost across from the racetrack on Highway 101, and that was the beginning of the fine dining venture there. I had a chef by the name of Vincent Grumel, who unfortunately is dead now, but and so we opened that restaurant, and we were immediate acclaim. There were not that many French restaurants at the time. There was a place called Chez Françoise, which was on La Jolla Boulevard in La Jolla, and La Chaumine in Pacific Beach, and that was it. So I was one of the first here, and then I kept one investor, and I opened Bertrand. Then on my own, I went to La Méditerranée, where I was a partner. And then in 1980, I opened a place. I owned the property. I owned a place called, we call it La Maison du Lac. And I opened a restaurant there in 1983, rather. And in 85, I was able to go on my own and buy Mille Fleurs. And in 99, I bought Mr. A's and reopened in June of 2000. So that's a little,
That's amazing.
Compressing
What was the
lifeline.
scene like in La Jolla when you opened up that very first restaurant?
Well, I tell you, I opened a bistro and we sold simple stuff, but for 10 people that would go to the left at the Bratskeller, which was a German restaurant sandwich, there'd be one that would come over to Le Côte d'Azur to have French food. It was hard. What I did have, though, had a strolling guitar player that sang Charles Aznavour and all those French songs. And so pretty much right away, almost right away, we became a bar. And, when I had a bunch of good-looking young men waiters, and all of a sudden I had a bunch of good-looking ladies coming in, and what happened then, the guys come, but we were mostly a bar, and that was burning me up because we were open lunch and dinner, and I was working 16-hour days, going home, closing at 2 a.m. and reopening at 11 a.m. I was like a zombie. That's why I felt I had to sell. It was like long hours. And frankly, all we could sell, I even had to put a burger on the menu, and it was the biggest joke because I refused to have ketchup, stupidly at the time. We used to go next door to the Bratskeller to get ketchup for the customer. And one day I got an order of 10 cases of ketchup at the back door. Rykov delivered 10 cases of ketchup. What the hell is that? And all the staff of the Bratskeller was going,
They ordered it for you?
Yeah, they ordered it for me.
So I'm curious, why were you refusing to serve ketchup at the time?
I thought a French restaurant, we don't have ketchup.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Stupidly, whatever.
Well, it's okay. I think you stand up for what you believe in.
Yeah, but that changed my mind. After that, I said maybe it'd be good that we use ketchup.
What was the what type of beverage program did you have back then? Were you doing all French wines? Were you doing cocktails?
I had zero idea. I knew a little bit about wine from my time serving wine at in the other restaurant, but my knowledge was totally limited. My wine knowledge happened at Mon Ami. I was so lucky. We had a customer. It was a widower, and that's another story. But anyways, every day the man would come 6 days a week, and he would let me order any bottles of wine. So, and then I changed red and white. And so I discovered French wines, which I had no idea. And I discovered great American wines because the price was no object. The man just wanted to try, and I tried with him, and we tried with him. And so that was really, my education in those 5 years. I discovered Lafitte Latour. I come from a very humble family. My father was a small farmer, 10-acre farm, and my mom was a professor of Latin and Greek. So, we drank house wine. I had no idea what those amazing wines were. And I was born near Cahors. They make, it's now getting somewhat famous for the Malbecs.
Sure.
Yeah. And
that's amazing. So they must have been very affordable, actually, to be able to drink Latour and Lafitte, maybe comparatively, right, to what it is now.
Well, they certainly were more affordable than now.
Yeah.
We were paying $30 for a bottle of Lafitte. For 75 Lafitte, I think we paid $35 a bottle, which was, going, wow, can you believe this?
Right.
We thought it was expensive.
Sure.
And at the time we were paying $4 or $5 for California wines. Even in '85, I remember I was paying $5 a bottle for Chalk Hill Chardonnay, which was my house wine. Anyways, I digress. But that's how I made my education. If every night, Pouligny, Chassagne, name it, whatever we thought the best was. In those days, David Bruce, Chardonnay was the Dr. David Bruce. It's no longer there. His son has some wine. But that was a nec plus ultra of the California Chardonnay, and Heights, of course, was the nec plus ultra of the California Cabs. But Silver Oak came on, and I was able to meet all the winemakers at the time because I was the #1 restaurant, and we sold all these expensive wine. We sold a lot of wine. I sold a lot of wine.
And they were coming down here to see you in San Diego.
Oh, yeah. And, this practice continues. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays, wines.
Wow.
All these days,
wow.
And everything.
That's amazing.
One after the other.
Anything that you're really excited about right now?
15 Bordeaux and 15 Burgundies.
Yep. 15 Bordeaux are amazing.
Yeah.
We just got our pre-sale a couple weeks ago.
Oh, yeah.
So how do you think those? I didn't know that you ordered that you opened up those other 2 restaurants in between the first one in La Jolla into Mille Fleurs.
There were more. There was. I'll give you chronologically. So there was 1973 to 75 was Le Côte d'Azur in La Jolla. Mon Ami was in Solana Beach was 75 to end of 79. Bertrand's was 1980 to 81. And La Méditerranée was 81 to 83. La Maison du Lac was 83 to 85. And then I sold the property that was able to buy Mille Fleurs with the proceeds. And so that's been 85 since then.
What was the media coverage for San Diego in that time like? Were there, because I've heard, I don't have a lot of experience going back, 15, 20 years, but I've heard so many stories of it used to be really good and then it dived really hard and then we used to have a lot of coverage and it went away.
Yes, we had a lot of coverage. I mean, I had a lot of coverage. The Union was big. The Reader had Eleanor Whitmer in those days. I mean, that's all gone. But David Nelson was a writer for the LA Times and he was covering San Diego. There was a lot of coverage. San Diego Magazine was a bona fide magazine covering food. Now, thank God, we just got Troy Johnson, which is a great news because I think this guy really knows what he's doing and he understands the in and out of the business, not only the food but also the problem of ownerships, via labor and things like this. So yeah, there was a lot of coverage at the time because it was interesting, and there were few of us. There were so few of us, that now there's a plethora. I mean, the scene has exploded with new restaurant, with young guys opening restaurant, and frankly, that has elevated the dining scene in San Diego, which was nothing. I mean, Wolfgang Puck is a dear friend of mine, and I was saying, Wolfgang, why don't you come to San Diego? He said, all my people say, don't do it. It's meat and potatoes, no interest of coming over here. Well, he was opening everywhere pretty much, all the other city. I mean, us being the 5th largest city, and yet have absolutely zero, gastronomic scene. It was terrible. Actually, if I remember, in 1992, we became top 25 in America. Mille Fleurs was named by Food and Wine magazine.
I saw that. Congratulations. That's amazing.
That was very cool, but that was the first really recognized time that San Diego was put on the dining scene. Then Vogue magazine came over and wrote a big article about Martin, the chef, and I. Martin, by the way, Martin Vosla has been the chef since 1985 here.
Since day one.
Since not exactly day one. I came with another chef that said, La Maison du Lac was a small place. I mean, the food was delicious because the chef was very talented. But he came here, so we were serving 30 people a night. That was a maximum of the deal. I came over here, and all of a sudden, the first night we do 80 dinner, and the guy said, this is not my deal. I don't want to serve any more than 30, 40 dinners. So I'm giving you a 2 months notice of this. And through Wolfgang Puck, I found Martin, who didn't want to stay here. He didn't like LA. He was working in LA, and he didn't like LA. He wanted to leave, and Wolfgang brought him in. So that was 1985, May 1985.
Bertrand, I wanted to ask you about that because I've heard that you have, a very long retention in a lot of your managers, and of course with your chef here, it's been for almost day one, but even like within the first year, over 30 years. I mean, that's really impressive, and I think companies or restaurants that are able to have this type of retention is it's something to admire. What do you think? How have you created that?
Well, first of all, I like to pay them well, and I understand the game. If you, right now, people ask all the time, I have people in the kitchen, I can keep them. Because if they work in our kitchen for say 6 months or a year, they immediately, and they could be just a line guy or garde-manger, they immediately get hired by somebody else at a much higher salary, So I know that to keep the key element, at least, I have to give the most money. At the time, I was well known, and and I communicate. I believe that communication is important, and a pat in the back helps too. but I am an exacting boss. I demand attention to detail. I think that's one of the success of my in my profession. Yeah, the key people, they make good money. We have the most wonderful customers, and especially here, we call it the hood. You know, I mean, you come over here. I've had Bruno, one of my captain, has worked for me since 1980.
Wow.
Marco, the Maître D', has been here for over 18 years. I have a piano player in the bar. He's been with me 25 years. My bartender has been there 21 years.
Wow.
You know,
That's
it's and many of these people, I've been here 10, 15 years and over. I also I always elevate through the ranks if at all possible. In other words, you can start as a busboy and you can become a food runner, and then if you do well, you can become a captain, or, you know, waiter. We call him captain. And so I always try to elevate from within. I do hire. We have to hire now. I mean, obviously, because you know, it's not like the business is not especially the busboys. That's a big drag, as I'm sure you've noticed in your business. I mean, it's a rotating wheel.
Sure.
It's like constantly hiring. The bigger problem is kitchen labor.
Yes.
As you know, we have a major problem with kitchen labor. Not enough people, and you know, it's not getting any better.
Do you have any ideas, or how are you thinking of approaching this as we move forward? And if it continues to go up, are you doing a surcharge or any of that?
Yeah, I was the first to implement a surcharge. I don't know if you know this. I mean, and why not?
Sure.
I mean, San Francisco has been doing it. See, people say, why don't you increase your prices? Well, simply because the money will not go to the proper place. My surcharge goes directly and only to my hourly employees in the back of the house. If I increase the prices, people here tip 20%. As an average, it's even a little higher than that. So I increase the price, my captains will get the money. Yes, I would gross more money, but my captain who are already making $11.50 an hour are gonna get most of that money. Whereas if I charge a 4%, I know that money is gonna go to the kitchen, where it can be, because obviously they're not sharing with the kitchen.
Right. And that's
just
where the discrepancy is.
Just recently, there is a system. The law has changed, and I could actually mandate a service charge, and at that point share with the kitchen. Well, it's not happening because I use a surcharge, and that way I think the people can still give whatever they want, as far as the amount of a percentage of tip, and I can pay better the people in the kitchen. But I mean, this thing something is going to burst, because we're only at $11.50 now. The minute it goes to 13, 14, 15, there's going to be a hecatomb. Yeah. I don't know who's going to be able. Not many restaurants will be able to survive. I say many restaurants will not be able to survive.
Yeah, it's going to be tough.
Yeah. The small guys are really going to have a problem.
How was it different for you when you went into the space now that you're in at Mr. A's and Bankers Hill? Was that a much different type of clientele and restaurant?
Oh God, I tell you what, that was scary, because at first the old people hated me and the young people wouldn't come because they thought it was still the old Mr. A's. They still that preconceived idea that, hey, we all fuddy-duddy and whatever. But
what was the Mr. A's like before?
Mr. A's looked like it was all red. It looked like the bordello look that Caesar's Palace had, you know, in that famous room, the Bacchanal. You know, everything was red curtain, red ceiling, red chairs, and it was the old-fashioned deal when the captains are all tuxedo clad. The service was cart service, and I took over, and all that went away. Well, it took me 6 months because I redesigned the whole thing. I redesigned the kitchen, I redesigned the restaurant, and it was a nightmare. So when I took that over, it took a lot of I was very lucky, because it was touch and go the first year. I'm going, oh wow, man, this is not working out the way I wanted to. And then with people help, the newspaper, of course, magazine, television and things like this, and just plain PR. We brought the people into where we are now, which is, we are full every night, pretty much. So, You know,
And with some long retention there too. I know.
Oh my God, yeah. Stefan, the chef there, has been there
Mm-hmm.
10 years. Most of the employees have been there since I started, you know, which is 18 years ago. Time flies, man.
So I guess, you know, I love asking this question too, and somebody who's had this much experience as yourself, what advice would you give to yourself if you could go back to, you know, day one, first restaurant in La Jolla with, you know, potentially so many investors and getting into that project? What advice would you give yourself if you could go back and meet yourself on that first day? What would you tell yourself?
Well, I mean, you know, I gotta tell you, for me, with zero money coming in, how do you get in business if you don't have those investors? I was very lucky, and only in America. I know for a fact I would have never been able to do this in France. You know, right now it costs so much money to open a restaurant. I mean, as you know, you're talking about your restaurant where you work right now, $6.5 million. I mean, that's you got to pay that money. You know, Mr. A is $4 million. You know, you got to buy the place and then redo everything. It was a lot of money. So back to the question. I don't know how I could have done it differently. Certainly there are things I would have. You know, there are always things you would do differently. But the path was the path. I mean, I had no choice. Either I was going to be a waiter for the rest of my life, or if I wanted to become an owner, I had to go through the suffering years. And believe me, I was making like $200 a night in DC, and I paid myself $1,000 a month in 1973. See, there was a large difference, you know, and working like a dog. And many times I went, I don't know if this is for me. And then finally I was able to assume a position when I opened Mon Ami. That was really the fine dining restaurant. And I was a maître d', and I was a partner. And so that was a completely different story. Then I was able to make money. I probably could have, at that time, I probably could have asked for a couple of investors instead of being a minority partner. But I mean, really, I don't have many regrets. I did the best I could considering where I come from.
Right.
You know,
what about fast forward, you know, about 10, 12 years later into opening night of Mille Fleurs? What
that was my dream. It took me just a little. It took me 10 years. I used to come to this place when it was with a prior owner. And I wanted that place so bad. I loved the little village. I loved everything about the place. It was called Mille Fleurs, as you see, because that's the name of the wall, the tile on the wall. It's the name of the pattern. And so God, man, I wanted that place so bad, and I begged, frankly, and I paid more money I should have ever paid. I paid $250,000 in 1985. To get this place with a liquor license and everything. I mean, it was a lot of money, but more than I should have paid, but I wanted it bad. And I did the same process with Mr. A's. It took me 10 years to acquire Mr. A's. At the time, because I used to talk to the owner, Mr. Alessio, John Alessio, Uncle John, Mr. A, that's what the restaurant is at Mr. A's. And he wanted to be 51% partners, and I go like, no, I'm not gonna do this. He didn't want me to change the decor. He just wanted me to be the maître d', which is what I was doing here already. I said, not a chance for that. And only upon his death, dealing with his inheritors, was I able to buy the place. So, you know, I wish he had gone faster, but, you know, it is what it is. Patience, yeah, and I'm not very patient, but I'm like a dog with a bone. When I had my bone, I wouldn't let go of it, you know? So that's... This is a story of this. Once I had it, I mean, you had no idea. Open overnight, I had that vision. Well, they had no flowers. They had this, but no flowers. So I said, okay, there'll be big flowers everywhere. There'll be carpeting because there was styling, was loud, you know, and there were no tablecloth. It was just, they would just serve everything on paper mats and stuff, although they had a very good chef. But I brought my chef, I brought my people, and it was an overnight success. I mean, really, it was. Because when I opened, I mean, I've had $300 on my account. I mean, this was everything I owned, every single penny that I owned in the world, the day that I opened. So I was, crazy. Oh man, I was like, you know, seat of the pants. Pretty much the same thing at Mr. A's. After I spent all that money, you know, I was completely empty, going like, oh my God, I hope this works.
And it's got to be one of the best feelings, though, to see it go full circle.
Oh,
right?
yeah,
putting everything you have into it and seeing it come to fruition.
Luck, hard work, you know, you can't beat that. But you gotta have luck too. I know a lot of great people that work extremely hard that were unable to make it. This restaurant business is a beast, okay? As you know, long hours, you know, and at the mercy of the customer, whether they have good taste or not.
Yep.
So, you know, you gotta be and always say, yes, sir, of course, sir, I'll be happy to do so, you know, and do it with a smile.
Right.
Which, you know, has not been a problem for me.
I
love people. That's really the essence of why I'm in this business.
And I think that's what makes it easy to be able to do that with people, is if you actually do care about them, you don't have to force it all the time. Or else that would just be a burden too heavy to carry. Well, lastly, Bertrand, what do you think's next for you?
Boy, you know, I say, you know, I just turned 70. And and I have 12 years to go on my lease at Mr. A's, and I say, I don't know. I mean, should I go? I'm gonna be obviously I'm gonna be 82 when the lease expires. So I don't know. Should I add another 10 years to the deal? You know, I say I don't know. I certainly I'll say that I'm gonna stay involved and I'm gonna keep on working, because otherwise I'll be dead. I cannot stay home. I have to be with people. And you know, the thing about Mr. A's, I love it. We do a lot of business, but a lot of people I don't know. We have a lot of parties. We have a lot of tourism. And we do have quite a few regulars, you know, and it's always nice to see them. But when I come back to Mille Fleurs at 8 o'clock at night or 7:30, you know, after I leave Mr. A's, boom, I mean, I know everybody, you know, and that's such a pleasure. I'm really in the hood, you know. I've been here since 85. It's such a small community, and pretty much we deal with regulars. I would say like 80% of the clientele is regular.
Right.
You know, 20% people we don't know. It's every night is like a feast, you know. So.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, listen, I have to thank you. Honestly, I think there's you know, there's so much interesting things happening in San Diego right now. There's so many passionate people that are coming up, and you know, I even work with a lot of guys outside of our immediate restaurant group that we're all really hungry to take San Diego to the next level and continue to kind of, you know, as the saying goes, a rising tide lifts all boats. And we're trying to really work and collaborate with each other a lot too. So, but it couldn't be done with people like yourself as a pioneer to kind of get this ball rolling and bring these type of things to San Diego.
I was lucky to be the first, man, but I wouldn't mind being back now as a young man, because the scene has exploded and a lot of good things are happening. There's you guys in your group. I mean, Juniper and Ivy. I have a lot of respect for it, you know, for what they do there. A lot. I mean, Kettner Exchange. There are a lot. I mean, they have so many. I'm gonna be Trust. You know.
Yeah, it's amazing. Food
a
there.
lot of good guys. A lot of good things being done, and that makes me feel good. Now, fine dining. As it goes, I think, you know. I mean, on my deathbed, I'll be with a tablecloth, and I'll be with a tablecloth and the expensive wine list, and you know, and the service that I want. But I don't know. It's just, you know, I thought that never end. Everything is cyclical, you know. I assume, you know, but dress codes is a problem, you know. And I don't know how you guys deal with that, but here we always have a problem. And you know, thank God I have a bar, or what we call the found room, when I put the people with shorts. But you know, I cringe. You see people coming fine dining with short and a t-shirt and flip-flops, you know. So we don't even take them at Mr. A's. You know, I mean, and they get pissed off at me and they yelp me to death, you know. So, and I hope the people, when they read the fact that we get a 1 because I refuse service to the people looking like crap, I hope the people pay attention to why, you know, you get a 1 star.
Exactly.
So anyways, that's something that bothers me about the dress code and restaurants. So, because I'm sure there's a place, if you want to dress up, you have a special occasion, you have a special person, you want to take them to a restaurant where it's going to be not as loud, you know, when you can converse, and when you can look good and show off your date, you know, or just show off yourself, be proud of, you know, that you're having dinner in a fine dining establishment. Anyways, that's the way I look at it. Obviously, it's a little a little, it's been tainted now. It's obscure, you know, by trend, I guess, you know.
Yeah.
But again, as I say, I think everything is cyclical, and probably it'll happen again, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll put a jacket on again. Or
Yeah,
something.
exactly. Well, thank you, Bertrand. I can't thank you enough
Thank
for the
you
time.
very much.
It's been a pleasure.
Nice talking with you.
Hey, thanks again, guys, for watching HospitaliTV. Don't forget to like us on Facebook and Instagram. We're actually now live on iTunes podcast too, so make sure to go there, subscribe, leave a comment and a rating, leave any of your thoughts. Let us know what you think. We'll see you soon. Thanks again.